What is going on, Phillies fans? Welcome into the Phightins final here in Edge of Philly Sports. A little later today, rain pushed the game, and with all our scheduling here at EOP on a Sunday, had to push the Phightins final a little later than usual. But don't worry, we're going to get into it today to talk about the fourth game of this in 3 days, with yesterday's doubleheader in this the finale of this San Diego's trip to Philly to take on your Phightins. What the series looked to be starting off as very shaky, maybe even a repeat of last year when they came out of the All-Star break after having a hot June and beginning of July and fell straight to the Cubs. Friday night didn't look pretty. Team looked very much out of sorts, but since then it has been clutch hitting, some heads-up baseball, and all-around great play and a win today, 7-6 win over to San Diego in extras, 12th inning gives Phillies a 3-game winning streak in just 2 days, so you can't complain about that. But we will break all that down for you at all the action that happened today with your fighting Phillies. So let's just jump into it. I remind you guys that this show is brought to you by David R. Cherry at the Cherry Firm. Workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, criminal law, you name it, he can help you with it. 610-565-0300. Go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Like I said, you hurt at work, in a car accident, personal injury, or criminal law issues. David R. Cherry's your man, 610-565-0300. So what kind of started off as a slow, looked like it was going to be a little bit of a San Diego controlled game. Wheeler was on the plate. Did well considering, he did let up 3 earned runs, but he went 7 innings, 5 hits, and 7 strikeouts, but only let 3 runs. But it took a little while for the scoring on the Phillies' behalf to start, which made us all a little nervous as usual. But guys, I'm just going to say this right now: little caution. Maybe I actually have it rolling at the bottom of the screen here. Just get used to it. I don't think it's any different than what we saw last year. I think we're always just expecting, when you make upgrades like Trey Turner and other upgrades in the offseason, you think maybe less of these churn your stomach type games are going to happen. It's Philly. You always say it's a Philly thing. Well, this is truly a Philly thing. And it's just, I always say, guys, get used to it. Just get used to it, because this is what it's going to be like now until the end of the season. It can be on edge of your seat, Phillies baseball, hopefully bringing us to a playoff push. But this is what it is. This is what you're going to get. We saw it in 2 games yesterday. We saw it in a game today. 4-game series. You took 3 of 4 from a good San Diego team. They've not been great lately. The standings, you look at the standings, you look at what they do. You're like going, oh, Al, what are you talking about? How are these guys great? No, I mean, they have a murderer's row of batters between Soto, Machado, Bogart. I mean, all those guys. Like, it's just a good team, just not playing up to their normal standards. But it's still a good team who is looking for a turnaround in the second half, and the Phillies are looking for to continue what they started in June and go further. And because of that series before the All-Star break, the Phillies dropped a little bit. They dropped in the standings, and we can kind of look at that in a moment. But before we do, we will we'll get into some of the scoring the scoring that happened today at the bank. They're fun games to watch. Jason, yeah, I mean, they do make them fun in the long run, but man, oh man, talk about, just edge of your seat baseball, which is great, which is what we want. It's like, this is like playoff type baseball. Think about, a team coming in here for the first time since last the fall in the NLCS. They didn't have a great showing here last in that NLCS, of course, which led us to the World Series. But on top of it, there's probably a little revenge in their mind. Like, maybe they got that win on Friday night. They said, fine, you know what? We're going to come to the bank and make up for what we did in the postseason last year. And if you just go by what you saw on Friday night and you rewind it to now, like at first we all probably thought that was going to happen, but of course it didn't. And we're going to get into that scoring right now. It started off early with Ha Seong Kim. I'm probably butcher his name, but he hit a homer. It was first batter of the game. Within like 4 pitches, hit a home run off a Wheeler. Kind of gave you that gulp, like, oh, this is gonna be that kind of game. Again, it's supposed to be a 135 start. The the rain, the weather, the outlook pushed it for another 3 hours. Hence why the Phightins finals right now versus earlier today. You know, it's it made a difference. And you were wondering maybe that sitting for that long kind of threw them off. You don't know, and they got a little nervous, but obviously we all know the outcome of today's game. That's 1-0 San Diego. Then brings up Xander Bogaerts, a solo homer as well to left field. This is in the 4th inning, so now it's 2-0 San Diego. And then in the 5th inning, Trent Grisham doubles and Matt Carpenter scores, and that makes it a 3-0 San Diego game. And you're just wondering, where's the offense? Where's the offense at? What could have happened? So Bryson Stott at the bottom of the 5th said, "Hold on, I got this one for you guys." Hits a solo home run to right center. Nice moonshot out there. It made it 3-1 San Diego still, but definitely rejuvenated that damp bank from down at Citizens Bank Park. Kyle Schwarber just continues to be Kyle Schwarber. Again, kind of like this season's going to be. He's going to infuriate you at one point, and he's going to make you so happy at another point. This is the guy you're dealing with. I mean, a la Ryan Howard type, it's all or nothing sometimes with guys like this. I know people continue to complain about him being in the leadoff spot, but there's some things you're not going to change. So I just don't get hung up on it. Would I prefer to see a power hitter like Schwarber in the second or in the third, or in the 4th or 5th spot? Absolutely. But it's just not going to happen. Apparently, it's just something with his mentality being the leadoff. But it pans out sometimes. I mean, if you look at yesterday's game, the 8-9 hitters come up, get on base, and he came up and cleaned it up there and made a 3-run game, which turned that game around. I mean, the Phillies had a fight from behind in all these games. So, and Kyle Schwarber was a key factor in this weekend. One of the key factors in this weekend that made it possible to have a three game winning streak and win 3 out of 4 in the series against San Diego. JT Realmuto in the bottom of the 6th, same inning, doubles, and Trey Turner scores and Bryce Harper scores, giving the Phillies the first lead of the game at 4-3 Phillies. Bases are loaded, and Drew Ellis is at bat. They brought Drew Ellis up this just recently again. He has some great plate discipline. Builds up the walk, gets the walk, and they walk in the run, make it 5-3 Philly. Top of the 8th, Fernando Tatis singles, and Machado scores, making it 5-5 tied score. I'm sorry, Kim scores, Machado scores, making it tied 5-5. That leads to the need for extra innings. Top of the 10th, Juan Soto sac fly makes it 6-5 San Diego. Bryce Harper in the clutch. And it's funny because you go back to that NLCS, and the manager of the San Diego Padres got a lot of grief for not putting in their closer. When Harper stepped up to the bat and ended up ultimately winning the NLCS for the Phillies. Well, this time he did it. Hader came in, but it wasn't enough to stop Harper. Harper singles, and Johan Rojas scores, tying it up again in the 6th. Tying up again 6-6 in the 10th. It takes all the way to the 12th inning. The bottom of the 12th inning, Schwarber hit a sac fly to score Amendo Sosa, making it 7-6 with Phillies victory. 3rd victory in a row, winning the series ultimately 3-4. 3 out of 4 in this well-needed, coming off, losing 2-3 of the division rivals, the Miami Marlins. Let's come into some of the comments here. Jeff Erb, if Thompson would have taken Soto out sooner, Wheeler wouldn't have got the win. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get it. And pitchers win-loss, I know maybe doesn't mean much to them unless it's a contract, conversation or something. I don't worry about pitchers win-losses as much. I don't know about you guys. Like, is it that important? As long as they're winning the games. I mean, yes, it would have been nicer if they scored earlier and all that stuff. But, Wheeler ultimately, it's just wants the team to win. I mean, I would rather. I think ultimately you'll take where you get it, and you'll be happy with it, and be very happy. I mean, like I said, again, pitchers win loss don't mean nothing to me. It's not a big deal to me. Um, I'm sure it means a little something to the pitchers. It just helps them look better. Uh, um, Rob Hefner. Hey, Rob, checking in. Vegas Rob here. 2 out of 3. Well, weekend. 3 out of 4. Oh, yep. There you go. 3 out of 4. I mean, yeah. A good weekend, a well-needed weekend. Like I said, they were really hot, and I don't want to take away from that awesome road game win streak that they had. Tying the franchise record, almost were hoping to break it, but little things like big things like that can get lost to losing a series to your division rivals who are in the standings above you right now. In their home, in their home court. So it was something that was needed. You had these guys behind you. You didn't need them to catch up and nip at your heels. You got enough guys nipping at your heels, which we'll talk about in a moment. But ultimately, and I think Chris is here saying it. Where Chris Lentz, win, lose, or draw. A win is a win is a win is a win. I think I know what you mean by that, but yeah, I don't think it doesn't. Like you said, Chris, it doesn't matter if Wheeler gets a win. It would be nice. The guys deserve it for all the hard work they do, but ultimately, I want the team win. That win-loss column for the Phillies, not for Wheeler, not for Nola, not for Walker or Suarez. That thing is the most important thing that's going to lead you to playoff baseball. I don't care if you win a World Series and you look back and you're like, oh, we were like 18, we were like 12-18. Wheeler's loss record was 12-18 or whatever. Who cares? Who cares? You want that championship. That's what you want, and that's what the ultimate thing is. Harper starting first base against the Brewers starting Tuesday. Now, did he officially say Tuesday, or I know he said he was going to start this series, but I wasn't sure if they said Tuesday was going to be the day. I have to look that up, Chris. But I'm a little on the fence about this one. I know some guys. I've done them with Matty B, with Pat the Gobbler, Pat Bernard, Mike Laro, Joe, Fred, all the guys we've talked about this immensely on the network here over the last few weeks. I mean, it's like one of those things. If it works, you're a genius. If he gets hurt, you're pissed. I heard some people, why don't you just put him out in left field and you don't have to worry about him? Like, because it's the throw. Like, you don't want him to have to really wrench his arm to throw the ball. So you're doing a lot less throwing, a lot less harder throwing at first base. I would like to listen. Let's see what happens. But he's got to prove it pretty quickly because trade deadline's coming up, and Derek Hall's struggling, and we'll get to that in a moment. You can move Bohm over there, but who do you put at third? I mean, that's where it all comes down to. Like, do you move Derek Hall down? Do they bring in a third baseman with a bat? Do they build a left fielder in with a bat? Like, and then move, and by moving Bryce Harper to first, now you can keep Bohm in there, and you open up that spot, that DH spot. And remember, that DH spot was never supposed to be taken up by one guy for as long as he has. Like, it was never meant. It was actually just fortuitous for us because you think about it, if they didn't make all those rule changes. If that lockout did not occur the way it did, last year would have been a completely different ballgame. Like, literally, like, we would have never made the playoffs. Even if we had the win-loss record that we did have, we probably wouldn't have the win-loss record we did have because Bryce Harper wouldn't be able to play because there's no DH. So things happen for a reason. Chris, who would I want at the trade deadline? This question, we've seen some of the big names like Shohei Ohtani, which would be a very expensive rental because the man's up for a contract, and he's probably going to be up for one of the biggest contracts in Major League Baseball. They're talking about $550,000 over like 12 to 13 years for him. We've heard Paul Goldschmidt, an older guy. He's still got pop in his bat. But he's not, he is a kind of all or nothing guy sometimes too. Like, he's not batting a 189 like Kyle Schwarber is and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. But it's interesting to talk about. The one interesting one, and I think Jeff is bringing it up here in the next comment. A few weeks ago, they were talking about trading for Goldschmidt or Arenado. Any more rumblings about that? Jeff, not any more than I've heard recently. It's speculation, but Arenado is going to cost you, and I mean Otani's going to cost you. I mean, unless they're not deciding to sign Otani. I mean that's a big if for the Angels, but um, I don't know how I feel about either one of them. Like Goldschmidt, like I said, he's a bit of an older guy, but he still has 2 years on his contract. I think he's like making like 25 mil a year, 20 to 25, somewhere in that range. Arenado is probably the most interesting of them all. But what you would have to give up to get Arenado would be the conversation, because most likely you're going to be having to send Bohm out. Now you got another guy with a big contract on top of Turner, on top of Harper, on top of Remuto. I mean, it's not my money, but sometimes you need a nice mixture of homegrown guys as well as some big time superstars. Like, I think that goes with a lot of sports in general, but especially for the homegrown guys, because the problem is, I mean, I know the cap's a little different. It's a luxury tax in Major League Baseball, but it's still something they have to go over. It's still something that they have to worry about, and then they start. The first year it's not so much, but the second and third years when it starts hitting them, and the only people that are who's gonna pay the difference in it, Jeff, you, me, the consumer. We're gonna be the ones who make the difference up. So Arenado is a very interesting one, because if Arenado became an option and then it's like Arenado or Bohm, it's like I like you, Alec, but Arenado. It's like it's interesting. I heard if we sign Otani, it will be a short-term deal. I mean, that's if Arenado and his people. I don't know. If Otani and his people want it. I mean, Otani's in the driver's seat in this one. I mean, this is going to be a bidding war beyond bidding war for him. Not just for if they trade him now, but in the offseason. You're gonna have the Yankees. You're gonna have all these big teams. I mean, look at all these teams that are starting to kind of, and we're gonna get into the wild card standings in a second, but look at these teams like the American League East. Any one of those teams would love to have listen. This would be the one of those few times there's gonna be 30 baseball teams or 32 baseball teams looking for the same guy. Like, usually it's like the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Phillies and guys like that are looking for that big time contract. The fact that Otani's a freak of nature who can pitch like he can pitch and bat like he can bat, and he's gonna demand a big one, but anybody would take him. And he's gonna let butts in the seats, man. He's gonna make you that money back. That's if you're an owner, if you're looking from a pure business standpoint, he's gonna make you money. But take the American League East. I mean, what a race that is. Like the American League East. We'll look at that in a second. But I mean, you have two right now. If we went into the playoffs, you would have 3 out of those 4 teams in there. Or 3 out of the 5 teams. I'm sorry, because you got Tampa Bay sitting at number 1 in the East, so they got the division, and then the wild card top spot is Baltimore and then Toronto 2. And then Houston sits there at 3, but Boston and the Yankees are they're tied at 2 games behind Houston. So there could be an American League East entire playoffs except for the other two divisional winners. So those guys, every one of those teams would want a guy like Otani. So the bidding war is going to be through the freaking roof. So he doesn't have to take anything he doesn't want to take. I mean, if he gets traded, he has no choice in the matter, but he doesn't have to take anything at that point. He can just I'll just sit here and see how I do. And then if I take you to a World Series and we win it, cool. Then the bidding war is even better. I won a team a World Series. Then all these teams are going to want it. So, yeah, with Otani, a short-term deal, I don't know if I take that. It's like bet on yourself, but it's like, is it much of a risk for Otani at this point? I don't think so. Dave Yarnold checking in here. Phils are still a half game out of the wild card spot. Still a lot of baseball to play. Yeah, I mean, Dave, that was the problem with that Marlins loss. It did knock you down. But you took 3 out of 4 in 3 days. You took 3 out of 4 games. You can't ask for much more than that, except for a sweep, of course. But even then, the problem that we're having is a little different than last year. This is what it's going to make it a little bit of a tighter race. That's why I said I opened up this show by saying, guys, buckle in. This is what we're going to get. There's not going to change. I mean, unless this team just becomes like the best team in baseball overnight and just goes on some ungodly win streaks, kind of like on all of the Atlanta Braves right now, or this pretty much whole year. This is what the baseball is going to get. And the difference between last year and this year is it's a tighter race. So your sphincters are going to be puckered a little bit even more than last year was. And that's kind of hard to believe. I know. This team, you got a lot of guys around. So let's since Dave brought it up, I'm gonna scroll down here and we're gonna look at the NL division leaders, and we're gonna look at the NL, of course, wild card, because that's what we worry about right now. So you look at it right now, Atlanta's in first place for our division, Dodgers are in the West, and then of course Milwaukee, and that Central is gonna probably bounce back and forth throughout the rest of the year. I mean, that's the tightest race in the baseball right now. But San Fran took over the top spot for the wild card. Miami bopped down to number 2, and Arizona sits at number 3. And we are a half game out of the third wild card spot with Arizona. Now, Arizona somehow is in that, because they tallied up, but they are 2-8 in their last 10 games. So they're on a 4-game losing streak, and they are 2-8 in the last 10 games. So bodes well for us with the Phillies coming up. It's going to be a big series. You got Milwaukee, they're 7-3, and they're on a 4-game winning streak. They're on the opposite end of on the opposite end of that. So they're coming into the bank hot. We're hot. So it's going to be two good teams colliding. In my eyes, the Phillies on paper are a better team. We're only a 1-win differential between Milwaukee and with us and Milwaukee. So it's a close race there, but they're just sitting at the top of their division, which is really tight. So this is a very important series, and I'm going to say this on probably every post-game show. This is a very important series. This is something you're going to look back at. This is something we're going to talk about, depending on which way this goes. This is a really big one because, you got that central card that's going to be flop back and forth. That means San Fran can pop up if we knock Milwaukee down. Milwaukee's going to push the wild card standings down. So it's going to fluctuate things. So this is going to be a big series. And then you have the Guardians you're playing. So them being, of course, they're in the American League. They're further down. They're 6.5 games out of the third wild card spot. Like I said, it's tough to be in the AL right now alone with the AL East playing the way they are. But other teams like Houston, Texas is playing really good, and the Twins in the Central. Another Central divisions are just this tight race going back and forth. But it's also the MO of the Phillies, got a really good San Diego team trying to stay alive. Which we kept, help push them back down. They're 8 games out of that wild card spot, 7.5 games behind us. But, it would be typical Philly to go in and maybe win the series with the Brewers, but then lose the series to the Guardians. Like, that's what I'm talking about. This is what we're going to be dealing with. There's going to be a lot of trade deadline talk, and it's coming up sooner than we think. The needs are going to change a little bit, especially when we see if Bryce Harper can play first base. That's a key thing. And does Bryce Harper play first base for the rest of his career? I don't know about that, but what does that mean even going forward into the next seasons? Because he's got a lot of contract ahead of him. But and what does it mean for other guys? Because we've talked about this for JT Realmuto as he ages with his contract. Playing catcher might become a little bit more physically daunting for him, and we said, well, we'll move him over to first. Alec Boehm has been really proved himself at third and first. He's pretty much splitting the difference between both positions throughout the year. So there's a lot of movement going on. I mean, look at the center field, the up and coming Johan Rojas. Like, I'm not going to sit there and tell you, oh, he's going to take over that center field position. But we went from just a year ago, a little over a year ago, before we had any center field. We didn't have a center field at all. Like we were hoping Mickey Moniak in the beginning of last season was going to be the guy. Obviously he wasn't. But now we have a lot of center fielders. Now Pache is injured, but I don't know if he's going to be an everyday guy. Brandon Marsh is continuing to give you a reason to keep him in there. But from a defensive standpoint, Johan Rojas, I mean, we saw what we saw from him this weekend. And he's probably going to give him a reason to keep him up here even longer. It will see how the injury issues play out with certain guys. Let's see. Jeff's chiming in here. I heard out of all the WC teams is in it right now, Phillies have the easiest schedule. Wild card teams. Yeah, they have not the easiest schedule, but they have more home games, and it's more spread out. The good, like if you want to, here, give me a second. I will pull up, and if you look at the so the rest of the month and into August schedule wise. So like I said, you have the Brewers starting on Tuesday, then the Guardians, then you play the Orioles, who are a really good team. Then you play the Pirates, who were starting off as a good team this year, but not as good, kind of cooled off. Then you play the Marlins, a divisional team. I don't care how good or bad they are, but as of lately, they've been a thorn in our side. And again, it's in Miami, and we just tend to struggle there. Then the Royals come to town for a 3-game series. And then the Washington Nationals come to town, which is, again, we saw what they did to us, and hopefully it'll just be like a little payback for them. But on paper, that should be a win series. And then you go into Minnesota coming to town, a team that's trying to keep their wild card spot off. Like I said, that Central AL and NL are very tight races. And then you go out to Toronto to play the Blue Jays for a 2-game series. Then it's down to Washington. Then the Giants come to town. Cardinals, who are not playing as well as they usually do. And then to round out the end of August, it's the Angels. So, yeah, I mean, you can see how there's up and downs in the competition, but it's the Phillies you got to worry about. We've seen this offense go cold. Like the pitching looked like, every guy's Cy Young coming in there. But then the bats are as cold as ice, or vice versa. You get guys like Aaron Nola who struggle, and then they let up 6 or 7 runs in a game, and we can only produce 2 or 3 bats, or runs in the game ourselves. So it is just, guys, stop. I mean, look at the schedule, get an idea. It's impossible not to look at the schedule, but at the same time, this is Phillies baseball. This is what it's going to be. No matter how easy or how hard this is going to be, it's going to be a bumpy ride. It's not going to be pretty the whole time. There's going to be letdown games. There's going to be overachieving games. There's going to be games across the board that are going to make us sweat it out one way or the other. So just get used to it. Don't make excuses for it. Don't blame Schwarber in the leadoff. Harper needs to play first. He's clogging up the DH spot. We need to get this guy out in the center field instead of that guy out in the center field. This guy's on a cold streak. That guy's on a hot streak. Whatever it is, this is going to be Phillies baseball. It's not going to be easy, but it's the clutchness that we need to see, and that's what kind of got them through last year. And it looks like right now it's getting through the second half of this year. So far, early on, only a small sample size. Jose Diaz is checking in. Congratulations, Philadelphia Phillies. Thank you, I guess. Thank you very much. Dave, seems to me Thompson is using Matt Strahm a lot out of the bullpen. Well, they're trying to use guys. He's more of a long reliever in a sense. He's been a proven commodity. At times he has been a little shaky recently, but he's been a proven commodity. And you got a lot of injuries to worry about right now. So a lot of younger guys coming up, stepping up, like Ortiz, guys like that, Vasquez, just different guys, who maybe wouldn't be dependent on. But, you still got Craig Kimbrell, we got Alvarado out, Sir Anthony's still out, and God knows what he's going to be like when he gets back. He's been very shaky all season long. So, yeah, you need a guy who's going to eat up some innings and hopefully keep the game within reason. And I think Strahm is that best bet. So real quick, let's jump into the box score today for the individual players. Let's start with Schwarber. He was 1 for 5 with a run, 2 ribbies, 3 strikeouts, still sporting that 189, but had the clutch home run to really um, get things going for the Phillies and really woke up the bank, like I said. Turner was 1 for 5. Who's another guy who's again seemingly turning it around. Some great defense from him today, twice. So it's good from that standpoint. Um, Hopefully, it continues to get better and grow. We've seen him have some hot moments and then cool off again. So let's see if it's sustainable. Another big one, a big name. Again, small sample size, but maybe those 4 days do good. Not thinking about baseball, not holding a bat in your hand, not throwing a ball, being with your wife and kids, having a little home cooking, whatever it is that you need. Bryce Harper, he's 2 for 5 with a run, with a ribby, um, and only one strikeout, and he's back up to 300 in his average. So again, hopefully this is the start of something, because it's a cliche thing to say, but this team only goes as far as Bryce Harper will take them. So we could talk about bringing Arenado in, Ohtani in, on all these guys, but if Bryce Harper isn't cooking, if JT doesn't kind of keep himself straight, if the starting pitching doesn't give us the pitching that we expect to see from them, but it's gonna be Bryce Harper's back that is gonna get us to the promised land again, or at least to the playoffs at the beginning. Realmuto, he was 1 for 4 with a run, 2 ribbies. Bryson Stott continues to just play well. I mean, next to Nick Castellanos, talk about your Mr. Consistent. I mean, from a defensive standpoint and an offensive standpoint, he had that big bomb in the right center field that really got the scoring going. Got the fans back into it. But he was 2 for 5 with a home run, a ribby. And he's sporting a 303 right now. Marsh was 2 for 4 with only one strikeout. Ellis started the game. He was 0 for 2. Bohm came in. He was 1 for 2. Hall went 0 for 4. Nick Castellanos a pinch hit for him, and he was 0 for that one hit, or one at bat. Sosa, I think he was he was a nothing burger today. And Rojas was 0 for 4, though he drove in a run. But it's, he scored a run. I think drove in a run. It's just, Rojas is a guy I'm gonna keep my eye on. Like, he had some big flashy play in his first game, and he's defensively is just amazing out there. If he could hit, what could you imagine having him in left field a little bit now and then with the DH? It'd be interesting. But Al, did you hear McCarthy say that they were in the sixth inning and they were going to go to the 11th inning? Wow. It's funny. Yeah, I didn't exactly remember hearing that, but it's interesting that something like that happened. It had the working of that game, a playoff style game. Neither team was out of it the whole time. It was just gonna who made the last error, last mistake, I guess would be it, was gonna win. Was gonna lose the game for themselves. So luckily it went in the Phillies' way, and the Phillies are now 51-42. Continue to climb. And it's just, of course, the guys in front of us are not backing off in their win loss. And like I said, Miami right now, they're on a 3-game losing streak after taking 2 out of 3 from us, and they're 5 for 5. That's what again makes that Miami. I hate coming back to that and kind of you keep bringing it back up, but that Miami, I keep saying, we're going to keep looking back at that one, how that was going to burn us a little bit. But think about it. You win one right there. Miami's down even further in the rankings, and maybe out of the wild card at that point. But they're 5 for 5 in their last 10. They lost 3 in a row. San Fran has won 5 in a row. San Fran is a weird team to me. Not a great team, like no great players on there. But they always seem to be in it until the end, and then they just bottom out. Like they either don't make it or they do make it and they just get walloped, and that's it. It's the end of it. it's like almost a waste of a wild card spot with that team. It's just interesting how they can. It's like, listen, you're winning, you're winning. You can't complain. Like, hey, Gabe Kapler's out there. I know most of us were not fans of Gabe, but he's producing. It's just when it matters, you can go 120 games, win 120 games in the regular season, but if you bomb in the postseason, is it worth it? Obviously, we all know the answer to that. Al, what's your deadline wish list? Kind of touched on this a moment ago, Joey, but I'll bring it back up for you. I mean, like, let's just talk about what everybody's been talking about. Ohtani, which I think is a pipe dream. And if he is, well, you have to give up the farm, give up everything for him. Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt's the most realistic one. I mean, he's not my favorite option. He's kind of like Kyle Schwarber. He's gonna be. I mean, I know Juan Soto's been in the conversation too, but I think I've seen enough for Juan Soto that I really don't want to bring him on. Like, I don't want to bring on that contract. I don't think I can watch this. I tweeted this out today. I don't think I can watch Juan Soto's theatrics out at the plate anymore. And the guy, like he does something where he goes off balance, he jumps back, starts swinging the bat around, does some like dancing at the plate. Like, it's annoying. I don't know if I can deal with it every day. Watching that in the games. Arenado makes it an interesting conversation depending on what, it really depends on what the deal is. But can they afford another big contract like Arenado? But I mean, if you're going to say out of all those people you talked about, I mean, of course, Ohtani would be your favorite, but knowing what Ohtani would cost us, no, and for a rental, definitely not. So, I guess Arenado would be my number one. I mean, a Paul Goldschmidt you can get for very little without really giving up the farm. I wouldn't be upset with that. It'd be interesting if what they do, if they add another bullpen piece or find another starter. But Christopher Sanchez has been good for him, even though they lost on Friday. Sanchez didn't lose that game. So I don't know if that answered your question, Joey, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. Walter, great win. Brewers up next, still outside looking in. Go Phils. Yeah, we're just talking about that. I mean, that the NL Central is just very skinning your teeth right now. We win the series. The Brewers are probably out of the playoffs at this point. We move up into the standings, and depending on how San Fran continues, if they continue winning, because they came off a pretty down losing streak, and then win 5 in a row. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. But I mean, the Braves are just the Braves, and they keep winning. I mean, I guess you got to kind of give them. I mean, they lost the last 2 games. Don't get me wrong. I know you can see that, but they put so much distance in front of us and the rest of the division. I mean, we're behind Miami a game, and we're 10.5 games out, and they lost 2 in a row. We won 3 in a row in 2 days. Just they got enough buffer. They have room for error. The rest of us don't. I mean, we're one game. It's a 1-game swing between us and Miami. Again, why I keep bringing up that Miami series kind of burns a little bit. Yeah, I heard that conversation. I wouldn't be against this either. Dylan Cease, I mean, yeah, he just beat the Braves 8-1. I mean, that's not going to happen all the time, but if he's somebody who can really keep the Braves off balance, absolutely. And that's the thing you got to look at. I mean, not in this, everybody says, let's just get in the playoffs and be happy with that. And I would be happy with that. I mean, it's not out of the question that we can win the division, but the Braves would have to go on some major losing streak, and we would have to be winning at the same time, because that seems to be the problem. When we lose, the Braves are winning. When we win, the Braves are still winning most of the time. So that's why we haven't been able to gain much of any ground. I mean, we were in the month of June, we were the second hottest team in baseball behind the Braves, and we made no wiggle on them, and we lost the 2 games that we played against them. Couldn't even split that game. Couldn't score 1 run in 9 innings against them to at least split the series. But whatever, that's not here nor there. I'd love Goldie and a 5th starter. Oh, Goldie. Okay. Goldschmidt and a 5th starter. So that's the thing, is like, you don't have to go crazy for a 5th starter. You really don't. Because, and I keep bringing this up on the shows, and I talk to people about it. Like, yeah, I mean, worrying about winning this, the getting in the playoffs, chipping a chair. But that fifth starter is going to be a nothing burger come the playoffs because you go 4-man rotation. So I think Christopher Sanchez is doing a good job. Now, if you got another pitcher who probably makes Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, and or Taijuan Walker, like bumps them back or forth a little bit, now you're talking. Because now you're talking about you have a fifth start. You brought another starter in, and you have a 1A, a 1, a 2A, and a 2B, or a 2, a 3A, and a 3B. Now we're talking because now you have a little depth. If games get tighter, one of those guys can go in the bullpen because we saw Ranger Suarez come out of the bullpen. So now if you have that comfort level with somebody, and you can put Ranger in the bullpen. Different story in the playoffs, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm not assuming the Phillies are going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I have a feeling that they're going to make a playoff. But that is, it's never given. I don't, I'm sorry, guys. My screen blanked out for a second. I lost you. I thought I lost you for a second. But yeah, you don't have to sell this. See, the thing is about getting a fifth starter at the deadline is you're going to pay a lot more for a fifth starter than you normally would. That's the key factor here. Is it worth it for a fifth starter? That's my question. A guy who may not matter come the playoffs. So that'd be interesting. Let's see what David Wambold says. Will Noah Song get a chance? Do you think? Well, will he get a chance to be a trade bait? He, for those who don't know, Noah is a pitcher in the minor leagues for the Phillies. You hear about Abel, then you hear about Crawford down there, but he could be a conversation piece come down trade talks, and we know Dombrowski's willing to deal, and so Song could be a guy that makes a potential trade interesting, could they move him up? I don't think he's going to get much of a chance this year. Maybe in September, maybe if they put a little room in front of people. I don't know. I haven't been following him enough to give you enough information. I'm trying to pull up his stats as of his last few games, but like I said, that's why my thing blanked out. I mean, he's 26 years old. You'll hope he start getting up here sooner than later. But this season, he's played for the two teams in the minors. He's got a 1.5 ERA in 5 games, 6 innings pitched. But I mean, he's really showing potential. But the question is, is he going to be a guy who's going to make a difference? If he's not on the 40-man roster, they have to release him. True. I didn't think about that for a second. I don't know. I think he's more trade bait. I think he becomes trade bait at that point. Now, is he a big piece of the trade bait? Now, he might just be another piece in a bigger pile of pieces. Ultimately, I don't know. I really, Dave, it's a good question, though. It's a very good question. Real quick, guys, let's jump into today in baseball. So it became final out, and it became final at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. They went 10 innings earlier. San Fran wins again. They are 8. It was 8-4 victory over Pittsburgh for the Giants. Chicago beat the White Sox, as we talked about earlier, 8-1. Baltimore beat Miami 5-4. So Baltimore's doing us a favor there. Toronto beat Arizona, which was beneficial for us as well today. That was 7-5. Milwaukee won, making it 4-3 win over Cincinnati. Tampa Bay lost to Kansas City 8-4. Washington lost to St. Louis 8-4. And Chicago Cubs lost to Boston 11-5. The Rangers beat Cleveland 6-5. And let me see. I think that was it. Oh no, I'm sorry. The Giants went into extra inning. The Yankees went in the extra innings, and lost to the Rockies 8-7. Minnesota beat Oakland 5-4. Detroit lost to Seattle. The Mariners 2-0. The Mets beat the Dodgers 2-1, and Houston beat the Angels 9-8, and that is your trip around Major League Baseball today. And guys, if you're looking for great tickets to go to these games, because there's a lot of fans down there, so that means the good seats are probably sold out. And if you go on those other secondary ticket sale companies, you're going to get walloped at the end with some hidden fees, $100 $150 fees per ticket. I've seen it happen 1,000 times. Don't let it happen to you. Go to sherrystickets.com. The price on the screen is the price you'll pay. You try comparing it, you'll think, oh, well, they're cheaper over here. No, they're not cheaper. Go to checkout and tell me who's cheaper, because right now I'll tell you sherrystickets.com will be cheaper, and it'll be even cheaper when you use that 10% off by using that promo code EOP10. Philly Sports Trips, go to phillysportstrips.com. They have all the Eagles away games, from bus trips to flights to all the cities. It's an amazing time. phillysportstrips.com. Check it out. And don't forget, their upcoming one is the San Diego trip out to Petco Park, September 2nd and 6th. Like I said, I don't think I have to tell anybody that San Diego is just a beautiful place to go to. So if you get a chance, go out there and go. And like I said, it could be a very interesting playoff bid for both the Phillies and the Padres, so we can have that playoff type atmosphere early in September. Here's what's going on this week coming up starting on Monday. So the week is officially over. I end the Philly sports lineup for Edge of Philly today. On the last one on the list here, should have been earlier, but it moved around. But I end this week, but we start next week with tomorrow with Birds of the Round Table. Always great Eagles talk. I mean, it's not for people who just want to be rah Eagles fans. Breaking down the X's and O's, breaking down the players, looking towards the future of players, who can make a difference today and who will be the difference maker come tomorrow. And then of course the Phightins finals kick back up for the rest of the week. Attacking Third is on Tuesdays for the rest of the month. Talking Union soccer. And then, of course, Wednesday's Party on Broad, Philly Press Box Radio, Edge of Philly Sports Live. And then Talking Philly Sports with Matty B will be on Thursday again this week. Party on Broad again on Friday. Steel Steps Friday night. Patterson Ave at 9 a.m. on Saturday. PM and AM on Sundays, and all across all the time. So there's always something for you sports fans here on EOP. Plus, check out EOPsports.com. Plenty of new articles up there all the time, talking about everything and anything in Philly sports. We always say 4 for 4 and so much more. Union, all the lacrosse talk you play lacrosse out back, the all lacrosse guys will cover it for you. And for your ultimate Phillies fans, go to phillysportstrips.com and sign up for that London trip next year. That is just, man, I think I really want to go to that. But that is about it, guys. I want to thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I want to thank you for being here. Let's see, dude. Hey, I had a birthday yesterday. I have playoffs for softball this coming Sunday. Enjoy your week. Hope all is well. Thanks, Dave. Happy birthday to you, my friend. Good luck in your playoffs on Sunday. Enjoy your week, and everybody else enjoy your week as well. And like I said, EOP will be with you guys to enjoy the week. So, seriously, check in with us. Plenty of live shows. Comment along. I love comment. I love talk. A lot of great questions tonight. A lot of great sports talk tonight. There'll be plenty to go along with it into the rest of the week and going forward with EOP. So, guys, check it out. Go to EOPsports.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You name it, we're on it. Just hit that subscribe, follow button, whatever it is you use. But thank you for hanging out with us guys tonight. I'm Big Al, and I will see you next week with the Phightins finals. I'll see you next week on Edge of Philly Sports Live, and catch any of my articles. I always put articles out every week, so check it out. EOPsports.com or edgeofphilly.com, whatever's easiest for you to remember. Check it out, guys. I'll see you next time.